Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Day 2 of the NBA free agency has come to a close, and we're now moving into day 3. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up day 2 and talk about what the New York Knicks did in day 2. Some people may be happy. I think a lot of people are not happy, at least with one move. Right? At least with one move. So we're going to go ahead and get over here and get with these guys. I got Tony Crow, got Joe Madden in the building, and we're going to talk about everything that went down today in the NBA free agency, and then we'll take a look at everything that's happened. 60 players, I think about 60 players have been signed since the free agency has began. So, Tony, Joe, what's popping with you guys, man? How you guys feeling?
What's going on, son? Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black, it's time. I was not enthused today.
Well, let's just even announce it first, right? So everybody, I mean, I guess everybody knows, but still, the Knicks signed Elfrid Payton for 1 year, $5 million. They signed Nerlens Noel for 1 year, $5 million. Okay, people are not happy with the Payton move. A lot of people, most people, I would say, are not happy with Elfrid Payton. I'm probably one of the only people who is not really upset with the move. It doesn't bother me as much as I think it bothers other people. I actually thought that Payton played well last season, besides the fact that he can't shoot the three. He only shoots 20% from three, right? So that greatly hinders his game. But with Payton on the floor, the Knicks scored, they scored 8 points better per 100 possessions with Payton on the floor. R.J. Barrett actually raised his field goal percentage 5% with Elfrid Payton on the floor. Mitchell Robinson and Elfrid Payton together on the floor helped the Knicks to score, I think, 114. This is per Jonathan Macri, 114.8 points per game per possession. When Elfrid Payton is off the floor, the Knicks score like 103 points per game per 100 possessions. There's something to say about, what he's able to do on the floor. He averaged 7 assists per game. If he could hit and knock down that 3-point shot, he'd probably average more than 10 points per game. Right? Maybe he'd average 13 or 14 points per game. I know everyone's going to argue and complain and say, well, him and Randall had this, that, and the other thing going on. I get it. I understand. Right? They came from New Orleans together. They had whatever that they were doing together. This is a different regime, a different coaching staff, different standards, different system, or a system, if you want to say that. I don't know if the Knicks had an actual system. Mike Miller came in and settled some things down. How much of a system it was, who knows? But with Tom Thibodeau, it's going to be a different system, a different level of discipline, different expectations of the players. I think it looks a little bit different. Am I saying that Elfrid Payton is your long-term starter? Hell no. Not at all. He's a backup point guard in this league, in my opinion. But do I take him for 1 year, $5 million? Yeah, I take him for 1 year, $5 million. And still, you may be able to, who knows what's going to happen. There's still time and there's still space, and the Knicks still have assets to possibly dip in somewhere and make a move for a starting point guard. Right? I'm just saying, I am not torn to bits and pieces because the Knicks re-signed Elfrid Payton. Now, I did expect for them to re-sign Taj Gibson. Now that they've signed Nerlens Noel, I do not think I don't want to say I do not think. He's not coming back. And it was a good move to sign Nerlens Noel. Right? You needed a backup center, a bona fide backup center behind Mitch. He's he can block shots. He's not going to score you a bunch of points. He can grab you some rebounds. He's long. He's lanky. He can play defense. I think that was a good get. What's your guys' thought process? Where you guys at, man?
I wasn't enthused about the Payton move. I understand it. They ran out of options. It was a cheap deal. And maybe their thought is, okay, let the guys fight, like let Frank, DSJ, and Payton fight out for the job. And then maybe they can move them. Get maybe second round pick or something in, package with them down the line before the deadline. There was better options out there. I was thinking Jeff Teague was an option. I know DJ Augustine, he went to the Bucks. He went to contender.
Right. But see, here's my thing about, I don't know what Jeff Teague got. I know he signed a 1-year deal with Boston. I don't know how much it is. But when I look at DJ Augustine, I don't want to pay him 3 years, $27 million.
No.
Right? So, I mean, is that what we would rather do? Would we rather pay DJ Augustine 3 years, $27 million? Jeff Teague has a chance to play a backup point guard spot with a contender. Is he really going to choose the Knicks over the Boston Celtics?
No.
Right? And they might be willing to pay him more than $5 million. It looks like right now the Knicks said, we're going to give these guys $5 million for 1 year. That's what we're looking to do right now. Everyone that they've signed, Alec Burks, 1 year, $5 million. Elfrid Payton, 1 year, $5 million. Nerlens Noel, 1 year, $5 million. If that's what they were looking to dole out, who were they really thinking about getting?
Right? See, my thing is, do they have a package? Because you're looking at $21 million, as you said too, about close to $30 million. And then Randall, they're going to try and move. So are they looking at package maybe DSJ, Randall, and picks to get somebody? Is like they have the money for a trade, and then two, Bogdanovich is sitting there. To me, Bogdanovich is the type of player where I could see him playing minutes at the point guard. The guy has the playmaking ability. He can shoot. He's smart.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean,
see, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's still time for them to make some moves. Who knows what their plans are right now? But it was clear to me that they said, unless we're actually getting someone serious, we're not entering into any long-term contracts. Yeah. Now, to me, Rondo, that's a great deal for Rondo to me. 2 years, $15 million, $7.5 million a year. I would have loved to have had Rondo. We talked about this before over Elfrid Payton. You couldn't have both of them. It's not like you could have Rondo as your starter and Elfrid Payton as your backup. That's basically the same player, right? So you would rather have Rondo.
That was my only problem with us going with Elfrid. Like, it wasn't necessarily Elfrid at the deal, because the deal is kind of a steal for $5 million. Like, I ain't even going. But I wanted Rondo. Like, I wouldn't have been mad at paying Rondo 15 for 1 year, and I know he would have took it. You know what I mean? So that was my only beef.
Right.
Like, because I feel like he could have really changed he could have helped every individual on the team develop.
Yeah, I feel like. Yep, I feel like he could have too. I feel like he would have been real good with this squad here as a leader out there. He's going to do that same type of thing in Atlanta. My thinking is that the Knicks. What'd you say?
Maybe he didn't want to start. Maybe.
See, the difference with Atlanta, I've seen some people talk about Atlanta and the Knicks. The difference with Atlanta is they have an all-star guard. They have an all-star already, right? So they're ready to go to another level. They have someone that they're, a bona fide player to build around. We believe RJ is going to be a bona fide player, and I just do. But, he's not that Trae Young level yet, that type of a bona fide player. We're still figuring out what RJ is going to be. Listen, I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I'm just saying we're still figuring it out. You know what I mean? And maybe Rondo wanted to have at least 2 years, and the Knicks didn't want to go 2 years. I don't, it's hard to say. And I'm interested to see what that Jeff Teague contract turns out to be. Really interested to see what that turns out to be. Listen, DJ Augustine, Teague, I didn't think either one of those guys moved the needle anyway. Right? They would have been good. They would have been okay, but I don't think that they really moved the needle or did anything. I don't think that the Knicks would be that much better with Jeff Teague or DJ Augustine than with Elfrid Payton. Honestly. So
I can make an argument for DJ just because of his shooting,
okay,
and his pick and roll. But other than that, I mean, I agree. It wouldn't have been much better.
Yeah,
because I don't know if he's the playmaker Payton is.
Right, and so we'll see if the Knicks have anything else in store. According to Tommy Beer, it appears the Knicks may have signed Elfrid Payton using their room exception, which means New York still has upwards of $30 million in cap space, more than twice as much as any other team in the NBA. Right? Then he goes on to say, it'll be interesting to see if they make a run at restricted free agent Bogdanovic. Now, other reports say that the Knicks have $21 million left to spend in free agency. Here's the thing. We were talking about this before we went live. It is possible because if you go on the Knicks PR page, they haven't announced any of these moves, any of them. They haven't announced Alec Burks, Elfrid Payton, Nerlens Noel, right? This has just been reported. It's not official until the Knicks announce it, which means if they have other moves in play, they can sign these. They can make whatever trades, do whatever they got to do, and then, like Tommy Beer just said, sign Elfrid Payton into that room exception, right? So until they actually put this on paper, the Knicks still have cap. They still have all their cap space because this hasn't been put on paper. They have an agreement with these players. In which context they decide to sign them is another thing, right? So as it is right now, they still have the cap space, because they haven't put anything on paper besides maybe an offer sheet. But then they got to decide, where do I use the money? Is it going to be a mid-level exception? Is it going to be a room exception? Things like that. You see what I'm saying? So they could still make some kind of a move if it's via trade, or if they said, hey, we're going to throw some money at Brandon Ingram. Who knows, right? They could still do that and then decide where they're going to sign these players and, where they're going to categorize their money. You know what I mean? So I there could still be some things out there. I don't know, but I'm just speculating at this point.
You got me wondering, because normally there's a time gap for which the team that has the restricted free agent can match the contract, right? So if strategically, if a player waits to sign a contract where the other team may not have time to decide, they got to make the decision immediately. Right. I mean, I guess that wouldn't benefit us if we did that, because we would be holding that money and waiting when we could have used it for something else.
Right. And just, to clarify and back up myself, no teams can actually put it on paper until I think Monday anyway, right?
Or Monday.
Right. I think it's Monday. That's when they can put it on paper. So we'll see if these things start to come, if it comes right out, boom, 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 they put it on paper. If these deals come right out, bam, 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 then, boom, that's a done deal. They got probably $21 million left to spend. If it takes a little while, then maybe it means that they're working on something else, and then they're going to figure out, where do I place these guys within our exceptions and those type of things. You know what I mean? So, we'll see. I guess we'll still see what happens. I think a lot of Knicks fans, including myself, thought that maybe Leon Rose and those guys could pull some magic out the hat. Instead, they went to Walmart and they was shopping in the $5 DVD bin. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see if maybe there's still something there. We'll see what they're thinking about. I'll say this: I'm glad they did not make it.
Anything you want them to? Any moves you want them to make?
I still want a legitimate starting point guard. I don't know where you get it. I'm hoping that they try to make a move for Lonzo Ball somehow, some way. Talk to New Orleans, to the Pelicans about Lonzo Ball. How much is Lonzo Ball and Elfrid Payton? How redundant are they? They could be kind of redundant, except Lonzo Ball can shoot the three better than Payton. Neither one of them can hit a free throw. Right.
And they also, New Orleans also said that they're keeping Bledsoe.
They're keeping Bledsoe.
I kind of figured that because Van Gundy, that Bledsoe's Van Gundy's type of point guard.
Right.
So that means, and then with them drafting Kira Lewis, that means they have three point guards and somebody, I don't know, somebody's got to go, I guess, or maybe, or.
You're right. Something has to happen. Somebody's got to go, you would think. So I guess, we'll see. Maybe somebody, maybe they're having some conversations or something like that. I don't know. Right? And maybe Leon Rose in the front office is happy with spending the minimum amount of money and then just saying, I'm not going to throw money at somebody just to throw money at them. If I still have $21 million left over or $15 million left over or something like that, to hell with it. So what? That's just what I got, and we'll figure out the rest later. I think it is smart that they're only doing 1-year deals, right? What's the sense of going 2 or 3 years? Not that we're going to get anything in 2021. It's not about the free agency. It's about having the flexibility to still absorb contracts if you need to and do those type of things, right? So, these 3 guys, their contracts expire at the end of this season. Next offseason, they have the ability again to absorb contracts, right? So maybe they didn't, open up the floodgates in free agency this season, but they maintained their flexibility, looking and saying, I'm not going to throw 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was for Gordon Hayward, $120 million. I'm not going to do that. That was crazy. So shocked that he got that. I'm like, what?
Yeah, Jordan must have been drinking last night and just woke up and said, you know what, let me throw the money at this guy. It's
crazy. I mean, some of the contracts that I seen, man, I mean, I wouldn't have been happy throwing 3 years, $27 million to DJ Augustine. I wouldn't have been happy with that.
I look online and they're like, usually they're crapping on the Knicks for putting out big contracts, and now they're crapping on the Knicks for not doing anything.
Well, that's how it's gonna be, right? So well, I may not be like, my eyes wide open and elated over what we've done so far. I can say, okay, I'm cool that at least they didn't just blow their money and waste their money. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what. Over the last 2 months of the season, from the beginning of February to the end of March, the Knicks were 500. They played 500 basketball. Elfrid Payton was the starting point guard, and he was playing well. Can he continue that? Who knows? He's injury prone. So of course that's going to come into play. But, I'm just not as upset as other people. I wasn't jumping up and down like, yeah, we got our man. It was just to me like, okay, all right, this is what we running it back this year, with him. I think the bigger question, though, for the Knicks is what happens with this whole Julius Randle and Obi Toppin dynamic. What happens there? Now, see, if one of those guys were 6'10", 6'11", they could play on the floor together. But they're both 6'8", 6'9". See, Obi Toppin can shoot it from the outside, right? Randall's more of an inside player. The issue is the defense, right?
Yeah.
How many teams you have those two guys on the floor together? How many teams are going to run up the points in the paint? That's the issue with those two guys. Offensively, it can work all day because Obi Toppin can shoot the ball from the outside. And he shoots it well from the corner. But defensively, it's not going to work.
No.
Right? Which is one of the reasons why it's really good that you have Nerlens Noel, because you have two legitimate centers and you have two legitimate power forwards. The only argument that's going to be is who's going to be the starter if Julius Randle was still here. That's what the argument is going to be. Because people are going to say, if Julius Randle starts, everyone's going to be upset that Julius Randle is starting and Obi Toppin's coming off the bench. If Obi Toppin starts, then, of course, immediately, it's going to be out there that Julius Randle is disgruntled.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he could very well be disgruntled. He may not be disgruntled. Honestly, in my opinion, I do not see Tom Thibodeau starting Obi Toppin or just automatically giving the starting spot to Obi Toppin. To me, it's going to be like, you guys going to get in the training camp. If he earns it, he earns it. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. Right? Now, how will Randle take that? If Obi Toppin earns it, how will Randle take it? Who knows? You never know how that's going to be. If a guy comes in and he's just better than you, right?
Yeah, it's hard to be like, oh, I'm better than him. I don't know what y'all saw, and we played the same game. You know what I mean? Like,
so like, if a guy comes in and he's better than you, it's not much you can do about it. You know what I mean? There's not much you can do about it. So, but the thing is, but looking at it, you will have in both lineups, you would have a strong power forward and a strong center, a strong defensive center in both lineups. Right? If they move forward in that direction, you probably wouldn't see Randle and Toppin on the floor together much. It would be Randle and Mitch, Randle and Nerlens Noel, Obi and Mitch, Obi and Nerlens Noel, something like that. Because you got Ed Davis, he might get waived, right? You got Kevin Knox who can play the four. So if you do move Julius Randle, you can obviously slide Obi Toppin as long as he earns it. Slide him into that starting spot, and then let Kevin Knox play the backup four. Right, so you will have, you still have options if they choose to move Randle. We'll see where it goes from here and how it happens. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's happening with it.
See, my thing with Randle is it's going to be hard for him to go from the number one option to the bench.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going from third or fourth, or like he's going from being the number one option, and in his mindset is just like, oh, this is my team, and then being told, okay, you're going to be on the bench.
I agree.
But that's the thing. It's not about being told. It's about being shown. Like, that's show and prove. Like, you can't. If a guy outplays you, you can't deny it that he outplayed you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The only thing you could do is try to earn your spot back.
Right. I mean, I do agree though that Randle would, to go. I agree. He would probably look at it and be like, "Yo, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this at all." And if that happened, and he was really causing a problem, then you got to do him like D'Antoni did to Marbury. Right? D'Antoni banished Marbury, sent them home, and said, "Don't even come to practice." I don't know if it gets that far with him. I think that there's enough. You got Kenny Payne there, right? Who can be that little birdie on Randle's shoulder if something like that were to go down.
Telling him, yo, earn your spot back.
Yeah, earn your spot back. You got Mike Woodson there. You got some leadership with the coaching staff. I think you got some strong leadership there. I don't know, man. We'll see what's gonna go down with it. I'm just glad that the Knicks didn't sell out on some crazy wild contracts. Do something crazy, right? Listen, it's another year that they punted in free agency, but if there was going to be a year that you punt in free agency, this is the year that you punt in free agency, right?
And if you're going to tank, this is the year to tank because you're looking at that next draft. You have 2 picks in that next draft and just kill. I think the way they might even do it is just build it brick by brick.
Yeah.
Instead of just swinging for the fences. Because the way it looks, I think they probably talked to Van Vliet and they talked to Hayward, and nobody's coming here until they show stability and they show to start winning.
True.
So
very true. Very true. Now
you got to build to the draft.
Yeah. Now, see, I think with Van Vliet, they would have given him. I think they probably would have given him the contract that he got with Toronto. I think they would have. Van Vliet was going back to Toronto. Gordon Hayward, I don't think the Knicks would have given him that contract. I think that would have been crazy to give him that contract. I don't know what Michael Jordan and them guys are thinking. Will they make the playoffs? Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they make a 7 seed or something like that. But I don't see where that's going, to be honest with you.
No. I'm surprised he went through. I thought Indiana was a shoo-in.
I think when they got LaMelo, they were like, all right, let's go for it. Because they got Grant, they got LaMelo, they have Terry Rozier for now. And that's a guy I think if we're going to move Randall, I'd do a straight-up swap for Terry Rozier and Randall. Because Terry Rozier was putting up, 18 and 6, and he was shooting over 40. And it's another stopgap point guard. If you draft a point guard next year, you could trade Terry Rozier.
Well, you got to throw Dennis Smith in there because we got, 4 point guards right now?
We got Elfrid Payton.
5, if you count.
We got a bunch of them. We got Elfrid Payton. We got Dennis Smith Jr. We got Frank Ntilikina. Right. We got Emmanuel Quickly, and maybe even, and we got Jared Harper.
Yeah, well, Quickly's more of a 2 guard. I think he's just an undersized 2 guard that can play the point at times, but he'll probably be a 2 guard. And I can see him fighting for that starting 2 position, and RJ going to the 3. I can see him for the first month or so coming off the bench and putting up good numbers and showing that he could start. He's the kid's a light out shooter.
I'd do that trade if they include Batum and a first round pick.
They waived Batum.
Oh, they waived him?
Yeah, they waived Batum. Right.
They needed him they need to get rid of him for the money to work with Hayward.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see what the plans are. You know what I'm saying? What the plans are moving forward. I feel like the next move we see.
They stretched his contract.
Yeah, they just waived him. They had an $8 million hit.
$9 million for 3 years instead of the 27.
I think it was $8 million, $8 or $9 million for 3 years instead of the 27. So they didn't use the rest of that money. Then they gave it to Hayward. And I think they're going to try and I think that the Randall deal is possible because I know they were interested in Randall at the deadline. And I think they have at the backcourt, they already have you think they have LaMelo, they have Graham, they have Rozier, they have Monk. So they're kind of loaded up at the backcourt. So I think they might look to move one of them. I think it'd be a good trade for Terry Rozier. He's a stopgap. You have him for a year. You take 1 year off his contract, and then next year, if you want, you could trade him. They only have 1 year left.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I tend to think that, if the Knicks are going to get someone, it's going to be through trade. right? You know, if they're going to get a player, it's going to be through trade. If they're going to get somebody significant, it's going to be through trade. There's nobody in the free agent market right now. Anyway,
Bogdanovich, and that's it.
Bogdanovich, right? He's a restricted free agent. Bogdanovich is in the market.
Yeah.
So if you're really going to get him, you're probably going to overpay for him, you know, so that Sacramento doesn't match.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're going to bring somebody in significant, it's probably going to be through trade. I guess, you know, depending, like I said, you know, you can decide, because you don't sign contracts, don't actually put it on paper until next week. You might still be able to throw some money at Brandon Ingram. Right, we haven't heard any news about Brandon Ingram or Anthony Davis yet. I believe that both of them are going to re-sign where they are. Brandon Ingram in New Orleans and Anthony Davis in L.A. for sure. You know, you look at the way the L.A. souped up. You know, they put some pieces. They putting some pieces in there.
I'm telling you, that Rich Paul is working for the Lakers, and I see the Lakers are loading up so LeBron can go on vacation for 2 months.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
My God.
Right.
Everybody's taking cheap deals to go to the Lakers.
Man,
Montrezl Harrell turned down $16 million to go to mid-level exception to go to the Lakers for a year.
Yeah. So, you know, look, you know, maybe they do try to throw something at Brandon Ingram, but for the most part, I think the Knicks are probably going to do another small move to fill that 15th roster spot. Somewhere, some way, they do a small move, and then they'll be done. And then we'll see if they start to juggle things around at the trade deadline. Right? Because all those contracts that they sign, all these $5 million contracts will be expiring, right? So they'd be able to move some things around. Julius Randle, at the end of this season, there's a team option for the following season, right? So he'll be a trade chip at the deadline as well.
When is the deadline to this? Because usually the deadline's around like the second week in December. So did they announce when it's going to be?
No, the trade deadline is normally in February. Right? Yeah. So I forgot when the deadline is for them to be able to start trading players. Sometime in 2021 when they can actually start to trade players. Players that they signed. Right, but the deadline, I'm not exactly sure when the deadline is. I'd have to look at a list of dates for the NBA. Let's see if I can look up important NBA dates for 2020, 2021. Let's see if I got some key dates for you. Let's see what's here. Okay. We've already, November 18th was the draft. November 20th. Free agent negotiations begin at 6 p.m. November the 22nd, today, at 12 p.m. Players can actually sign the contracts, right? So it's not tomorrow, it's today. So we will find out if, if the Knicks, if these contracts just boom, 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 the Knicks have signed them, then, there's probably not, then they'll probably just sign somebody into that $21 million they have left. Because I think you've got to use your money before you use the exceptions. I'm not sure. Right?
Yeah, they have to spend, I think, is it 90% of it?
And then they can start using the exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they spend all of it for the exceptions, but in general, like I think there's a penalty or something if they don't spend all the money. So say the 21 million, I think they probably have to spend like 15 million of it. Right. And if they don't, there's like a penalty, I think.
Yeah, there's a floor. So there's a floor. Right, there's a floor that you have to spend. You have to spend so much money. So they'll probably reach that floor, and once they reach that floor, maybe they'll be done. I mean, they probably will be done. We'll see if they waive Ed Davis, though. If they waive Ed Davis, that means they open up another roster spot. All right.
And how much is his cap hit?
Ed Davis' contract is $5 million.
So, and then how much would the cap hit be? Is the cap hit to be the full $5?
Yeah. If they waive him, they still got to pay that money. So it still hits the cap. It's not like it frees up money in the cap. It still hits the cap.
But trying to buy him out.
But they'll have a roster spot where they can, sign another player or move somebody into that roster spot.
Or even use him in a trade.
Right. They could use him in a trade.
Or buy him out.
Right. They could do, something. They could do something like that if they want to open up a roster spot. Let me see. March 5th through the 10th. Oh, I'm sorry. December the 22nd. It's opening night. Right. March 5th through the 10th is the All-Star break. March 11th begins the second half of the season. So they don't have the dates up here when you can start to trade players or when the trade deadline ends. So we'll see. We'll see what happens and how that goes down. Just a couple of updates of things that have gone on in the NBA today. Right, we're gonna bring over Woj and Shams and kind of, go through things that have happened today. I'm just gonna run down, and we'll talk about it. Today wasn't as busy as yesterday. Yesterday was, while there wasn't like major players being moved, it was still kind of the wild, wild west.
I'm surprised there wasn't a lot of bad contracts starting to be moved. The Knicks said they wanted to take on bad salary, but there hasn't been really any big contracts moved. Because that's what I think they could do with the rest of that cap, try and get more picks maybe for next year.
Right. They could, but they gotta free up some roster spot, right?
There's just one spot left, right? But they could always put Iggy back in the G League too, so that could open up another spot.
Well, so they would have to convert. I don't think that they can convert his contract from.
Yeah, they would have to waive him and then sign him to a two-way.
Right, they'd have to waive him and then sign him to a two-way, okay. Right? Because he's on a regular contract, like he's on the team.
Mm-hmm. He's another shooter. People were saying about not getting enough of shooters. I think he should be getting some minutes at the three. He looked good in Westchester.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets a chance. Hopefully he gets a chance. We'll see what he looks like in training camp. Yeah. Haven't heard much about Iggy.
No, he was shooting well, and he was shooting over 40% in Westchester. But the thing with Iggy is defensively, he's too small for defend fours, and he's too slow to defend threes.
Right.
But offensively, he's good.
Right. Let me see what's going on. Bacca is signing a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, so Sergio Bacca is leaving Toronto. That's according to Shams. But we'll start with Adrian Wojnarowski. He says at this hour, Toronto is still working to convince Marc Gasol to return on a new deal. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's see. Who else do we have here? Javon Carter has agreed to a 3-year, $11.5 million deal with the Phoenix Suns. All right, the Phoenix Suns are trying to put together some players, too. We know about Nerlens, Noel, and the New York Knicks. Brad Wanamaker, he's agreed to a 1-year, $2.25 million deal with the Golden State Warriors. Denver has pulled the qualifying offer from their forward Torrey Craig, which allows him to become an unrestricted free agent. We know about Payton in the Knicks. We're not going to talk about it anymore because I don't want to get people mad. Right? Rajon Rondo. He signed a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Adams has agreed to a 2-way deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see, who else do we got here? Pat Connaughton, he's returning to the Bucks on a longer than originally anticipated deal. It's going to be 3 years, $16 million. Gary Clark, he's agreed to a 2-year, $4.1 million dollar deal to stay in Orlando. The Hornets waived Nick Batum to create cap space so that they can sign Gordon Hayward. Right? So Boston and Charlotte, they're working towards a sign and trade, I guess, with Gordon Hayward. And we were talking about this the last show, I think. Why is it that Boston, over the last few years, they lost Al Horford. He went to Atlanta. Obviously, Kyrie went to Brooklyn. And now Gordon Hayward is gone. Right? Not that they really need Gordon Hayward. I think, they're still going to be an Eastern Conference contender without him. But what's going on over there that free agents don't want to stay? Or why? Maybe they feel there's too much talent and they want to go to some place where there's not as much talent. Guard DJ Augustine has agreed to a 3-year, $21 million deal to Milwaukee. I said 27 before, so $21 million deal. Let's see, who else do we have here? Chris Dunn, he agreed to a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks. Let me see. Mo Harkless, he agreed to a 1-year, $3.6 million deal with the Miami Heat.
He's going from the bottom to the top.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Bobby Portis.
Right. As part of a 4-team trade, Steven Adams, I think this is maybe where we left off last night. Steven Adams is being traded. The Thunder will receive George Hill, Darius Miles, a 2023 Denver protected first-round pick, and a second-round picks in 2023 through Charlotte, and in 2024 through Washington. All right, so now they've whittled down that point guard pool to just 3 point guards now. So now it's Eric Bledsoe, Lonzo Ball, and Kira Lewis. They may not move one of those guys then, because Kira Lewis is rookie.
Yeah.
They may say, hey, you got to sit the bench this first year. And, he's an attacking guard. You can still have Lonzo Ball and Kira Lewis on the floor at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you may not be getting a point guard out of New Orleans Pelicans.
What sort of package would they be looking? Because if you could give them maybe a couple of them seconds we took and a first and maybe DSJ, because he's an unrestricted free agent next year, right?
Who? Lonzo Ball?
Lonzo Ball, yeah.
So they've got to give him a $14 million qualifying offer. If they give him a $14 million qualifying offer, then it's up to him to accept or turn down the offer. If he accepts the offer, that means he'll play that year for $14 million, and then the following season he'll be an unrestricted free agent, right? If he denies the offer, then he'll be a restricted free agent next summer.
Yeah.
But then, it looks like, I don't know. He would probably, I would think that he might accept the offer. Yeah. So that then he can be a free agent the year after. Because I don't think he's going to be worth more than $14 million on the market.
Well, it depends on the year he has.
A long-term deal.
Right.
Yeah.
But he might look to say, if he likes it in New Orleans, then he might just be like, all right, I'm cool, we can stay here. But if he's not really crazy about it in New Orleans, then he might say, you know what, I'll take the qualifying offer. This way I can be an unrestricted free agent and I can go wherever I want the following season. Now, if he turns down the offer, he might be turning it down to try to negotiate with them for a longer deal. Who knows? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he's going back to the Los Angeles Lakers. 2 seasons.
Talk to the Knicks with him. I think there was the Knicks were talking to him.
Yeah.
But I think that was just, he was talking to the Knicks for leverage, I think.
Right. So, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, let me see, his contract is, he's agreed to a 3-year, $40 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. And then Shams said the third year for KCP and the Lakers contains a partial guarantee. The deal gives him a $15 million average salary over the next 2 seasons and $68 million guaranteed over 5 seasons. So, you know, I seen some people like, oh, we missed out on KCP. The Knicks weren't giving him that contract.
No.
Right? Knicks wasn't giving him that contract.
That boy getting his people paid.
Yeah, ain't no word is born. Getting paid. Free agent Wes Iwundu is close to a deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Let's see what else. Anything else that was out there? The Golden State Warriors, they applied for the disabled player exception worth $9.3 million due to the season-ending loss of Klay Thompson. Carmelo Anthony re-signs in Portland. Not exactly what the deal is.
I thought Melo was going to come here.
You know, with all of the people in his position that they picked up, I thought maybe he was out the door, but no, he's going back to Portland. I'm actually glad for him. I thought it was a good fit for him. He was comfortable there. Let's see what they can do. You know, they've souped up on some players. You know, they try to add some depth. Let's see what they do.
That West is going to be crazy with Portland, the Suns, Memphis.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Really interesting.
Right. The Rockets, they've claimed Kenny Wooten off for waivers. So he'll be on the Rockets G League team next season.
We should have just traded him for Westbrook.
After receiving interest from over half of the league, Millsap returned to continue his career with the Denver Nuggets. He's agreed to a 1-year, $10 million plus deal for Paul Millsap. Jeff Green, he's agreed to a deal with the Brooklyn Nets. Jay Crowder, he signed a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Suns.
Oh, fair.
Let me see. Sources say the NBA and the NBPA have agreed that the players who elect not to play in the 2020-2021 season must notify of this election by December the 1st. Players who elect not to play will be prohibited from signing a contract for the 2020-2021 season. So we'll see. We'll see if we have any players that choose not to play.
Hopefully, Elfrid Payton.
What'd you say?
Hopefully, Elfrid Payton decides not to come back.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that man's coming back.
I ain't that long. Hey, Sam, would you if the Pelicans wanted Frank instead of DSJ, would you do it?
Lonzo,
man.
Lonzo, yeah.
I guess. But
of course.
That's tough, man. That's tough for me because Frank is my favorite player on the team. You know, that's tough for me, but you might have to. I think Frank might
out. I think Frank might break out under Thibodeau.
I was thinking that they would want Frank instead of DSJ, more so because of DSJ, Kyra, and Beto all have the same strengths.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree. According to Shams, Avery Bradley has agreed to a 2-year, $11.6 million deal with the Miami Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and of course we know about Fred VanVleet agreeing to a 4-year, $85 million deal to remain with the Toronto Raptors. Free agent guard Raul Neto has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Washington Wizards. Bobby Portis is joining the Milwaukee Bucks on a 2-year deal.
I don't know how they gave him a deal after last season with us.
I'm gonna tell you. You know,
it's gonna be a good fit there.
The thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that these players, Bobby Portis, what was he averaging? 15 points, 7, 8 rebounds before he came to the Knicks, shooting close to 40% from three. Wayne Ellington was shooting 37% from three, I think maybe averaging 10 points a game. Reggie Bullock was shooting 37% from three. He only shot about 35% from three last season. Obviously, he came back off an injury. A lot of people complained about the Knicks not having shooting, and they didn't. But they signed guys who could shoot. They signed guys who had high percentages from the three-point line, right? But when they got to the Knicks and the lack of offensive continuity and a true player that can draw attention so that you can kick it out to these guys for wide open shots, help to lower their shooting percentage. And I think other teams recognize that. You know, and when you see these guys get into, like, Bobby Portis go to Milwaukee, I think he's going to do well there. And then people are going to look and say, well, how come he didn't do that with the Knicks? Watch. I can guarantee it. But it's part of it is due to the Knicks. You know? That makes it tough, but I think he's going to do well. I didn't see exactly what the deal was for. It doesn't say what the deal was for. But I think he's going to do well playing in Milwaukee. Happy for him. I'm glad. DeAnthony Melton, the 46th pick in the 2018 NBA draft, now has the highest net salary from his class for 2021 for the 2020-2021 season at $9.6 million. He signed a 4-year, $35 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. Michael Carter Williams, he agreed to return to the Orlando Magic. Got Denzel Valentine. He signed a 1-year, $4.7 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. And after losing Jeremiah Grant to Detroit, the Nuggets are acquiring a starting caliber forward in JaMychal Green. All right, so JaMychal Green has agreed to a 2-year, $15 million deal with the Denver Nuggets. So, I don't know, Tony, man. I don't know what we're going to do, where we're going to be. You know, I guess we'll pay attention to see what happens tomorrow, right? See if the Knicks, you know, if we start to see the workings of things happen for the New York Knicks. They've been quiet, and then they come out the blue and make some, you know, made a couple of just signings, you know, just okay. Right. We still don't know, you know, there's not a bona fide, I mean, we just need a point guard. We just need a bona fide point guard. You know, right now it looks like, you know, we'd be going into the season with the 5 point guards we named earlier: Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr., Quickly, and Jared Harper. Right, we'd be going into the season with those guys. Jared Harper, of course, is on a 2-way contract, so he'd probably play, you know, he might play, you know, a lot of his time in the G League. Of course, Frank Ntilikina can go between 3 different positions. Dennis Smith Jr. can go between 2 different positions. The thing you have to look at between Dennis Smith Jr., because Frank, like we said, he can go between 3 different positions. Dennis Smith Jr. and Quickly. They just drafted Quickly. So I you know, their allegiances are gonna be to Quickly. You know,
Quickly think's gonna get a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
I you see about like his work ethic, and then just the guy can just shoot out. Like his shooting is definitely
not in the G League, honestly.
You think Quickly's with G League?
You think so?
Yeah, I think because he's going to be under contract long term. Where Dennis Smith, you gotta see what you're gonna get from him, at least with Tibbs, and possibly try to let other teams see what they're gonna get from him. You know what I mean? If he's sitting on a bench, he's just depreciating.
Yeah. I mean, we'll you know, listen, back this looks a lot like what we did last season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very similar. And I said this yesterday when we signed Alec Burks, that he looked like he was a Wayne Ellington type of signing. This looks a lot like what we did last year. I think this group is maybe is going to be a better defensive group. I think we got better defensively. Alec Burks, I guess he's okay, but Elfrid Payton, he plays defense. Noel, he definitely plays defense because there was clearly a lack of rim protection when Mitch was out the game. Now you have a guy like Nerlens Noel who can protect that rim. One of those two guys are going to be on the floor. You know what I mean? So that's going to help a lot. As long as we have some guys, I think quickly, he's a good defensive guard. Frank Ntilikina is a good defensive guard. Elfrid Payton is a good defensive guard. So we should be able to have some defense on that front line, on the first line of defense, that point guard spot. Hopefully we can guard other teams' point guards. We should be able to have defense there. We should be able to have defense on our back line. Now, can our wings and power forwards get some stops and play some defense?
I mean, it's really just Knox, Randall, Opie.
Right, those three.
Like those might be our only question marks or liabilities.
Right.
Or targets for the opposing team's offense.
Yeah, because
everybody else is pretty solid.
Yeah, RJ plays defense. It's a good defender. Reggie Bullock is a good defender. Right? So yeah, those three, all at one spot. All of them at that power forward spot.
They like Mitch and Noel, save us. Every possession to save us.
You know what I'm saying? All at that power forward spot. Our worst defenders are all at that one spot. That's tough. That's tough.
Also, I was thinking we still have the money. I'm thinking, is that Westbrook deal still going to be in play?
Who knows what the Houston Rockets want to do?
They still have Randall, which is probably at that DSJ.
Oh, hold on, you guys. I didn't hear. What'd you say, Joe?
I was saying I think that might be still in play because you still have Randall and DSJ, and then you did acquire extra picks.
Right.
And you're you have 11 picks over the next 3 years, a load of second rounders. So that's why I feel maybe they're up to something. They've been too quiet.
Right. Tony,
and they still have that money for where they have one roster spot, and as you said, maybe close to $30 million, and then Randall and DSJ, and that brings up to Westbrook's contract. That'll bring you over $40 million.
Right. Randall and DSJ, I mean, that's going to be $26 million right there.
On top of your 20 or whatever you have.
Right. That means that you're still only taking up $14 million, or you only got to use $14 million of your cap. So what were you getting ready to say, Tony? You getting ready to say something?
I honestly think with them signing Payton, they staying pat at the point guard position.
You think so?
At least till next year. I think so. I think if they do anything, it's going to be for some type of wing, shooter, and defender, 3-and-D. I think that's
it could be
out there, but
it could be. Listen, I'm gonna tell you what. And I don't want to say it, but I just have a little bone in me that keeps poking me. Listen, Nerlens Noel from the University of Kentucky.
John Wall, you're talking about, right?
I look at it already. Noel.
I was thinking that
Kentucky.
too.
Freaking Julius Randle from Kentucky. Kevin Knox, he's from Kentucky. Quickly, he's from Kentucky. John Wall, he's from Kentucky. And I can guarantee you right now, if the Knicks made that call, they'd be like, let's do it. Let's get something done.
If they gave us 2 first-round picks, I'd do it. 2 first and a second.
Yeah,
they give.
and we would have to get rid of Randall too.
Right.
It'd be a Kentucky for Kentucky guy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. That's
I
true.
get-
It'd be a Kentucky for Kentucky guy. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I didn't think about that. I forgot about that. Yep. Because you would have to get rid
See,
of Randall.
about John Wall, I don't know. He with this stuff with the gang sign videos and his he's had drinking problems, and then he stole money basically off Washington the last 2 years because he hasn't played a minute under his contract.
I
And
know.
I'm like, I don't know about him.
I know, man.
See,
I know.
and he fall in his house on purpose so he didn't have to do nothing. I'm like,
right. Big shout out to Payback Carter. He said, I guess we're back on the 1 year's deals and I'm in for it. Yeah. We're back on them. We're back on them 1 year deals. Justin Hernandez, thank you for the super chat. He said, thank you. We did not get Hayward at that price. I agree. And then Mighty Knicks just said we have a good roster if it was 1998. Still have no shooters. Well, Alec Burks, he shot 40% from the field, right? Alec Burks, he shot 40%. Reggie Bullock can shoot. Obi can shoot. We'll see if he can shoot in the NBA, but we're projecting that he can shoot in the NBA. Quickly can shoot.
RJ looks better at his shooting, so he's had 9 months, so he should be better.
Right.
Technically, not all of them should be better. They've had 9 months, so Knox shooting should be better.
Yeah, Knox shooting should be better. So, we might have some better shooting this year. I think a lot's going to come. Yeah. We'll see if he shoots one in the game. Don't shoot it in warm-ups. Shoot it in the game. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll see. And a lot's going to come down to how Tom Thibodeau uses the guys. Because spacing also has to do with your placement on the floor. It's not always just shooting. Shooting, yes, you need to be able to knock down them shots so that people respect you. Right? But it also comes down to where you stand on the floor, how you space yourself out on the floor, to open up lanes for guys to penetrate. You know what I mean? Because if a guy like a RJ is in the corner and he only shoots 33, 34%, guess what? Your defender is still going to close out on RJ because there's a chance that he can knock down that shot. They may not close out on Elfrid Payton, but if Elfrid Payton is the one doing the passing, right? If Elfrid Payton is the one that can go to the basket and do the passing, they're going to close out on RJ even though it's only 33%. They'll close out on Frank even though it's only 33%. They'll close out on Randall even if it's only 30%. Why? Because they may not be great, but they've showed the ability to make the shot, which means that player has to close out because if you don't, you never know when a player is going to get hot, right? So it doesn't always come down to just can they make the shot? Are you respectable? And will your player close out? And I think all of those players I named, R.J. Barrett, Frank, Julius Randle, Kevin Knox, their players will close out. And if their players will close out, then they can open up that lane. The thing is, you can't have guys standing in the same area. You got to have good spacing, know where you're standing on the floor. So it comes down to more than just shooting the ball. It also comes down to where you're standing, because if I'm standing right next to Tony, he shoots 50% from the three-point line, but I'm standing right next to him and allowing my defender to be there with him. He can't get the shot off, no matter how good he shoots the ball. Right? So a lot of it comes down to where you are spaced out on the floor and how you space the floor out, meaning where you stand and how you're organized within your offense. A lot comes down to that, and we didn't always have that. So, I get it. And then that also plays into elevating your shooting, because even if you have a guy that historically shoots bad, if you have a good offense that allows you to open up the floor, right, based on you overload one side of the floor so the weak side is always open, right? And when you do your actions, then the ball gets swung to that weak side and that guy is open. You do some things like that, all of a sudden these guys' percentages raise up because they're getting wide open shots. Right? And you become a better shooting team because the offense dictates it. So, a lot goes into it.
Yeah. See, a lot of they were like disrespecting RJ last year. I feel like RJ had a good year because he had no space and going into the rim. I feel once he opens up, he could easily next year or this year coming up average over 20 points when he has the spacing.
Right.
See, that's the key, and that's why I don't think, That's why I don't think Randall needs to be on the floor because, like, Randall's a good offensive player, but just he can't shoot. He doesn't play defense. Like, I think we kind of have to move him. I think that should be like a number one priority is moving Randall because of the spacing, because to help RJ. Because Randall didn't help RJ. There's been a lot of times where RJ was cutting to the basket or RJ was wide open and Randall wasn't passing.
You know what? I have video to change your perception of that. You can go watch the video. You can go watch the video. Plenty of times, and I still got clips where Randall found RJ. Especially as you get down towards the last 2 months of the season. A lot of times he found RJ cutting to the basket, RJ cutting to the basket for dunks, RJ doing backdoor cuts to the basket. Earlier in the season, they didn't find each other as much. I think later in the season, they started to find each other a little bit more. RJ was finding him, and I think he found RJ a little bit more. I think they found a little bit, I don't want to say a full-out connection, but I think that their chemistry became a little bit better as far as playing with each other on the floor. Will that continue? Who knows? But I think it got a little bit better towards the end of the season. Because one thing that Randall can do that I don't know if we have another big that can do it. I don't know about Nerlens Noel, and I'm not going to say that Obi's ready to do it. Randall can actually pass from that high post.
So can Obi. Obi's done a lot in college. I don't see if it translates to the NBA, but he's done a lot in college. Obi was a very good passer. He still has that passing skill because I didn't know. I only found that out recently that Obi in high school was a point guard, and then he grew.
Yeah. So if those guys can pass from that high post. Randall can pass from that high post. He's good at finding people from there. He has a ability to make some passes from there. And Tom Thibodeau likes to use big men from that high post position. So, and then now, Obi and Randall's not going to be on the floor together. I don't think a lot unless something just works.
See, the only thing, if Randall could play, if one of them could play defense, that wouldn't be a problem.
That would be the thing. If one of them could play defense, because they got, even though they don't have the height, they got strong bodies, both of them.
They got the big,
right. They got strong bodies, so it would, they'd be able to, if they could play some defense. But.
And I hope Obi can get like defense, because he said it in the interview. He's like, he got to work on his defense, and I hope Thibodeau and Kenny Payne and the guys can help him with it.
Yeah,
because his defense, that was like I was happy we drafted him. That was the one thing that was in the back of my head was about his defense, and I was like, we don't need another Randall. We don't need to replace Randall's defense with the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really hoping he can get the defense going, because his footwork on defense is atrocious.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of work with it.
We'll see. We'll see what this coaching staff can do. Marty Knicks, thank you for the super chat again. He said Calipari is a sleazy car salesman. I disagree with you though. He said y'all believe when he told us Knox had the highest potential in the draft. He said Knicks have all Kentucky bust. One, I wouldn't say Randall is a bust, right? And then about Kevin Knox.
He said 3 years.
Exactly. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. You can go back and read it. You can go back and look at it. People keep on saying it because Calipari came out with that video talking about quickly. People like he said the same thing about Knox. No, he did not. He said
Quickly's ready now.
He said quickly,
ready.
right. He said Quickly's ready now. He said Kevin Knox, he said there's going to be some players that were drafted before and after him that are better right now. But in the long run, he's going to be the better player. We're going on year 3. He said give this kid 3 to 4 years because he was so young in age. Right? So, people keep throwing out these false narratives, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest false narrative there is. Calipari straight up said you got to be patient with him. But now everyone wants to say that he said that Knox was the greatest thing to ever walk the earth. Man, these dudes. Come on, Mighty Knicks.
They need to be patient. With Obi, if Obi doesn't average 20 and 10, they're going to be like, oh, trade him. He's a bust. It's like, you got to give guys time. I'm like, not everyone is like LeBron James or these guys that hit soon as they come into the NBA.
Right. And then
I'm like, Knicks fans are so impatient.
Real King said, how much time do you need? I want you to understand something, Real King. This is not the days of Patrick Ewing coming into the NBA. When Patrick Ewing came to
a 4-year player.
Patrick Ewing came into the league. He was 22 years old when he came into the league. Yeah, you're going to have your LeBron James guys. You're going to have, those guys. Kobe Bryant took a few years before he really started cooking in the league. He was playing behind Eddie Jones. It took him a couple years. Right? But see, back then it was more expected that young players were going to take a little bit of time because guys came out of, Kobe Bryant is, one of the trailblazers to come out of to come out of high school. Not the trailblazer, but one of them, right, to come out of high school. And they expected these guys to take a little bit more time. Nowadays, you expect the guys to come in your first 2 or 3 years just be killing. Yeah, you got some guys that do it, right? But more than not, you're going to have guys that don't do it. See, if Kevin Knox had come out back in 1996, right, they'd be okay with sitting him on the bench for 3 years and waiting until he was ready, give him a little bit of playing time here and there. But today, these guys they play early, right? They play early, and then they, everybody, and then the spotlight is on them. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be a little bit patient, man. Gotta be a little bit patient. These guys are 18, 19 years old coming into the league. They're not coming into the league like they did way back in the day.
Yeah. Like Knox to me, Knox has the potential. Like he has that like Kevin Durant or Brandon Ingram, like that style, three-way score potential. He just needs to keep putting the work in instead of being on Fortnite.
Yeah.
Because you have some of these kids that come out and they're like, I know it's in the NFL, a lot of guys come in and they get that couple of $1 million and then they're good. They lose that motivation because they're getting nothing in college. They're like, oh, I want the money to support my family, blah, blah, blah. And then they get that money and then the motivation's gone.
Yeah, and I get it. I agree with you there. You want guys to work hard and do the things that they're supposed to do. I'm just saying these guys, they come into the league really, really young. You're only gonna have a few guys that explode and actually, kill it every time. Not every time, but kill it when they come into the league at 18 or 19 years old. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's gonna do that. Real King said we're delusional. That's okay. We can be delusional. All right. But I've spent the last 20 years coaching young players, and I've seen guys start off trash and end up being college material. right? Because it takes time for players to develop. So if you want to go ahead and bash a kid that's 21 years old, 20 or 21 years old, because he doesn't live up to what your expectations, go ahead. You can do that. Go ahead and bash him.
And what
Right,
about circumstantial things like coaching, like systems, like the players that you're actually playing with, the fit, like all these things you got to take into effect. You can see a kid who's playing horrible somewhere, and you might see him and be like, if I had that kid, you know what I mean, I'd use him this way.
Right.
And he'd be a totally different player. So it's a whole bunch of things you got to take into effect.
A whole lot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, someone who just said, Mark Segala said everyone was hating on Ingram. True. It was the same thing with Ingram.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody was hating on Ingram. You know what I'm saying?
Look at LA. LA went and traded him and Lonzo Ball just for Anthony Davis to get a chip. And to me, in the long run, that's gonna pay. They're gonna pay for that. They're gonna get maybe 2 or 3 chips, but then in the long run, Ingram's gonna be balling out. LeBron's gonna be gone. AD might be gone, and they have no picks.
Yeah.
So to me, in that deal, if anything, they should have gave Kuzma instead of Ingram, because imagine Brandon Ingram breaking out in that team now. It'd be something else. But do you know what I think? Some of these players like Ingram was probably maybe even the best thing for him to go to New Orleans, a smaller market.
It might have been.
And get away from LeBron, because I like LeBron, but LeBron isn't really probably the best for young players.
Well, definitely not. You know, once you get LeBron on your team, you know, it's time to, you got to put vets on the team, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they were saying, like, about Lonzo Ball was people saying, oh, after 2 years, he was a bust. You didn't realize he used to dribble up the court, give the ball to LeBron, and stand in the corner.
Yeah. Like, you know, one of the things that, you know, people get with Kevin Knox, his first season, he averaged 12 points per game, right? You know, people say, well, Kobe made the All-Star team in the second year. I mean, true, he did, but he really burst. I mean, okay, he made the All-Star team, I get it, but he really burst about his third year, fourth year, like he really burst, right? You know, he made the All-Star team, he was averaging 15 points a game. You know, I don't remember if he was a starter back then or not. Right, on the All-Star team. I don't remember if he was a starter on the All-Star team when he made it. In his second year, he was averaging like 15 points a game, something like that. But, you know, he started off averaging about 7 points a game, and then he averaged 15 points a game. Knox went in the opposite direction, but I think that had more to do with the makings of the team than Kevin Knox. You know, and the way that things were down, you know, with the team. Now, you know, listen, a player is a player. And if you're like super duper nice, then it's not going to matter who's on your team. You're going to shine through. But, you know, sometimes a player's personality and the way that they are, who they are, you know, takes precedence over their talent. You know, that's something that he might need to get over. I'm just saying, you know, give these kids some time to grow up a little bit before you just, you know, scream, get them out of town. Give them some time to grow up. That's all. But, hey, man, I'm about to head up out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night, I'm going to do this again tomorrow night. And I'll have the phone lines open tomorrow night. So, you know, I can call in and hear what you guys got to say, you know, about the entire weekend of free agency.
Same time?
Same time, yep. I'm gonna do a wrap up for day 3 tomorrow. And this right here will be streaming just about all day tomorrow on 365 Knicks. You know, so people can pop in and talk about it, do whatever, just like it was today. And then tomorrow night at midnight, I'm gonna do a day 3 free agency wrap up. There probably won't be a whole lot, you know, because a lot of guys have already done some things. Maybe, you know, we see some trades or some other moves or something like that. But I doubt there'll be a whole lot tomorrow. But tomorrow we'll do it again. Then I have the phone lines open so I can hear what people think just about what the Knicks have done for the entirety of free agency, right? We'll find out some more stuff tomorrow, you know, if the Knicks are making any other moves or if they have anything in the works or anything like that. You know, we'll find out some more tomorrow.
Let's see if they start shopping in ShopRite instead of the Dollar Tree.
All right, or jump, get up out of that $5 bin, do something else. You know what I'm saying? Get up out of the $5 bin and do something else.
Yeah.
So,
Two more players apply for $5 million tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, right. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what's up, man. We'll see what's up. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, same time. I appreciate you guys for coming out, talking with us tonight, and we'll catch you tomorrow night, 12 a.m. We out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Be peaceful, and everybody, talking stuff about me because I'm talking about Kevin Knox and defending him because he's a young player. So what? Say what you got to say. I don't give a damn. Say what the hell you got to say, bro. He's a young player. Let that man grow. Yeah,
and it's only going to get worse.
No doubt about it. All these knuckleheads in the chat. Y'all some knuckleheads, man.